You are listening to Ministry Minded, a podcast of Step Up to Life, where we discuss the gospel, theology, and how to navigate the highs and lows of Christian ministry. Living out the Christian faith is a complex thing to navigate, so we're here to help you think through it as you progress on your journey. All right, well, we are here with Adam Cabeen, our Latin America champion with Step Up to Life, and so we're excited to connect. We're in the same time zone, surprisingly, although we're many thousands of miles apart and able to meet through technology as it is today, so we're grateful for that. Lincoln, who in the world is this guy? Why are we connected with him? And get us rolling here.
Well, you know, sometimes you wonder, you look back and you're trying to remember, how did God connect you? And sometimes things aren't clear. So anyway, I think, Adam, you can correct me if I'm wrong. First of all, this is Adam Cabeen. He serves as our Latin America hub coordinator, as well as our champion for Colombia. So we're going to hear a little bit about his story, how he ended up in Colombia from the U.S. via Spain.
Oh, wow.
Something like that, I think. And with some Omaha connections. Yes?
Yeah.
All right.
I was actually born in Omaha. It's
Born
amazing.
in Omaha.
Are you kidding me? How did I not know that?
See?
How did I not know that?
So I think I went down to Colombia to teach Step Up to Life a number of years ago, and they had arranged three different cities to teach in, pastors' conferences. And so they said, here's Adam, he's your interpreter, and he'll travel around with you. So we were together 4 or 5 days doing these different conferences, and in the evenings, he would take my computer and he would fix the Spanish in the PowerPoints. And I was very grateful for that, because obviously you don't want any snafus there.
Right. I already heard about the female ending on the male descriptor of the certificates. We'll cue you guys in on that.
We'll end with that funny story, maybe. Oh, yes. Anyway, so Adam, did I get that right?
Yeah, the first memory I have of translating for you was at a hotel in Medellin. There was an event for pastors and leaders, and Pedro, you go way back with Pedro, another athlete friend of yours. So he, connected us there. I don't know how I ended up translating for you that day. And that was like the beginning of it. And then we ended up going to other cities and translating for you for other seminars. So I remember that hotel setting there with like 40 pastors and leaders, and just my first contact with Step to Life there that day.
Okay. Yeah. So just a connection there. Step Up Life's been connected to Christ for the City for many, many years. And we just developed that relationship more deeply in the last few years. And so friends with Chip Anderson, the leader, and Pedro Hernandez, who was the base leader in Medellin. I say Medellin, but you called it something different.
Yeah, Medellin. Mm-hmm.
Medellin, Colombia. And so I was down there, apparently, I guess, on Pedro's invitation. And so we met in a hotel there. And was that the same year that we went around to different cities, or is that a different time?
I don't remember. I know we went to Monteria, which is very hot, and that.
Yes. Was it Cartagena?
Monteria.
Monteria. Oh my goodness, it was so hot. And I've spent 9 years in Phoenix, and I'm telling you, that was hot.
It's even hotter because it's not on the actual coast, so you don't get the breeze and the wind from the actual beach. It's just inland enough that it's just so hot. There's just no breeze at all.
Wow. Right. So Adam has served as my interpreter, I don't know how many times, and then he began to just teach it and did a great job with that. And so maybe 3 years ago, we said, hey, would you be the Step Up Life champion for Colombia? Was that about 3 years ago?
Yeah, I would say, or 3 or 4 years ago. Yeah.
Okay. And then the concept of a hub coordinator was developing, and we thought of Latin America, and we thought of Adam, and so he has served faithfully in a wonderful, wonderful way in that role. We now have 7 champions in Latin America and the Caribbean, and they all look up to Adam. They love him, and he's got their respect. And so, Adam, you're a blessing. We're so thankful you're part of the team.
Oh, it's a blessing to serve. It's been so neat to meet these guys, because I didn't know most of them. I guess a few through Christ for the City. A lot of them are directors in their bases in each one of their countries. But since I'm not a base director here, I don't have meetings with them very often. So it was neat to. Well, I guess we'll get to Cuba at some point. But yeah, we had our Cuba encounter not too long ago in our summit, right? So that was a good experience there.
Yeah, just about 2 months ago, I was with Adam and we were with all of our Latin America champions in Cuba for several days for our first ever Latin America Champion Summit.
And if you're not familiar with that, Step Up to Life is a ministry that comes alongside leaders and individuals, but leaders primarily, to help train them on how to share the gospel more effectively for lasting conversions rather than temporary decisions that tend to fizzle out or fade out because it's not presented quite clearly enough for the person to understand what they're doing. So we go all over the world, work with really top-notch level leaders who can then get trained in this and then take it into their local ministry contexts to share the gospel with greater impact.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's great. So, Adam, let's go back. You're born in Omaha. Goodness sakes!
And I got to hear about this. This is
Omaha
news to me.
Omaha, Colorado, Spain, Colombia. Did I get the order correct?
The order's a little bit different, I guess. We did start in Omaha. Yeah, I did start in Omaha. My parents are both grew up in the Midwest, and they met in college in Iowa. They got connected with the Navigators, got a sense of calling to missions through them. My dad had some missions experience in Indonesia. They were going to be originally missionaries to Indonesia, but their visas were denied, so that didn't work. But it was neat because then Spain came on the table as one of the options, and that plays a big role in what my life has been because of Spanish and all of that. So yeah. So they at some point my dad went to Grace there in Omaha, and then I guess that's where I came along, and and the rest is history. You know, I was there for 3 years. Then my parents went to Costa Rica for 1 year because that's where they normally go to study Spanish. All missionaries that go to a Spanish-speaking country, many go through Costa Rica and have a 1 year, immersion, Spanish immersion, all year speaking, practicing, at a good Spanish institute they have there. And so they actually were there at the same time that you guys mentioned Chip. His wife Mary was in the same class as them, Spanish class as them way back in '83. So when I ended up coming on with Christ for the City, my dad was like, "Oh, I know Mary." And so then, kind of all those connections there with Spanish learning in Costa Rica. So we went there for a year. I was like 4 years old. My sister was born there and we went to Spain. So grew up in Spain since I was 5 until all through high school, and then went to college in Texas.
What part of Spain, Adam?
Well, we were in the south in Cordoba for many years, and then we were also in Madrid. So from my childhood, it was like half and half. Half we were down south, and then half we were in Madrid, the capital. So,
have you ever heard of Blanes in this kind of the southeast? Blanes, right on the coast.
Yeah.
I've been there several times. Really beautiful place.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Very touristic.
There.
Yeah, it's very touristic. The southern coast there.
Yes.
So, yeah. In Texas, I went to Laterno University in Longview, Texas, and yeah, that's actually, speaking about my faith journey, that would be where the Lord really started working in my heart. I mean, of course, I grew up in a Christian home, parents, full-time ministry, said the sinner's prayer at 4 years old, that kind of thing. And years down the road, I was like, was that something that was like real? I mean, but how real was this when you do that kind of prayer so young? And my parents had to write me an email kind of explaining what the conversation was that night with my dad that led me to, ask Jesus into my heart. So it seems like that night we've been talking about disobedience. I don't know what I had done that day, disobeying my parents probably in some different way, but just explaining how that is sin and how that displeases God, and then that touched my heart, and I, asked Him to come into my heart, and so that would be like my first, I guess, step, but then you go through adolescence. And as a teenager, I wouldn't say that I was a rebellious teenager, but there was a lot of indifference and kind of unconcern, like if we're using the steps, in my heart as far as towards God, not really caring about the sin in my life. So I would say that college, like my junior year in college, and I can't pin down a day or a time. I think it was more of a process, that God just brought people into my life and gave me opportunities to serve. That I just realized, I turn away and turn towards, because that's what repentance is, right? It's turning away from sin and then turning towards Christ, really. And so I just started to detest and hate all that was in my life that didn't please God, and I started to love wanting to serve Him and just wanting to live for Him. And so that was like my junior year in college, and started doing a couple mission trips to Mexico. I had the Spanish. I was like, I got to use this somehow, right? God must have given me the language for some reason. I was already serving at a Hispanic church there in Texas, and that was another big piece, really, of God calling me to missions. Um, and so kind of both of those pieces, doing some short-term mission trips, which was like the missions on my own now, not just as an MK. My parents are missionaries. I didn't want to be a missionary at all, my first years of college. But then with this transformation that God's doing in my heart, it's coming around. It's like, I've got to serve Him. It might be full time. It might not be. It might be on a mission field. It might be in Texas. I don't know where it will be, but I'm open to whatever you want, God. So I went on these mission trips to Mexico. And then in my last year of college, I was like, okay, I've got to give missions a chance, like a longer term, experience. And so that's when I started contacting different mission agencies. And Christ for the City was one of those. And back then it was magazines, Christian magazines. I don't even know what they're called, but there was like this cards inside of them that you could like rip off and then send in, and they could send you information about their organization.
This is pre-internet.
Yeah, this is before all of that. And so I got this call from Chip, because all these other places sent me a bunch of information, but the only place that actually called me and left actually a voicemail on my dorm phone, because back then it was, there was no cell phones and all that. So I get back and I listened to my voicemails, and Chip was on there. I was like, oh, this is from Christian City, so interesting. So I called him back, and that's kind of where it all began. And I really resonated with a lot of the things that Christ for the City does, and then later down the road, Steps Life too. So yeah, so I connected with Christ for the City, did orientation with them in Omaha. That took my life back to Omaha, I guess, after being born there, and hadn't gone back for a while.
What year would that have been, Adam? When you came back here to do orientation, when was that?
That would have been 2001. That would have been 2001, because that's the year I graduated, and I I was in that process of choosing who I was going to serve with in Christ for the City. When I decided on Christ for the City, I did orientation, and then I started fundraising, and came to Colombia in 2002. So it was pretty fast, actually.
Well, I was curious, because I was wondering if I was here when you were here.
Okay.
I was in Phoenix. We were suffering for Jesus in Phoenix when you were here doing your orientation. So just missed you. Yeah. So was it straight off to Colombia then?
Yeah, it was. I did fundraising for about 6 months. I didn't really have it. I didn't really have a preference of any country per se, but most of the countries that Christ for the City is in South and Central America. So I knew it was going to be one of those, and I did want to use my Spanish. And I'd been serving at a Hispanic church in Texas, and I really felt that God wanted me to serve amongst Hispanic people. And so, I just kind of asked Christ for the City, wherever you guys have need, just send me there. Whatever you decide is good for me. I don't know anybody in these countries.
Sorry. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's just pretty much a difference in accent, you know, and there's some terms and words here and there, kind of like the British English and the American English. We understand each other. It's just a different accent and throw in some different words and terms here and there, but probably enough to get in trouble sometimes. You know, you can mess up saying a word that could be offensive at some point. In general, it's pretty straightforward. So yeah, it was a big help to have the Spain Spanish, even though it was a different kind of Spanish. My first years in Colombia was kind of like, oh, you're from Spain, you know, kind of like the more refined Spanish, or you think you're better, whatever, that kind of thing from Europe, you know. But I've always, you know, growing up as an MK, I've adapted so much that actually my accent, I mean, people here now don't really tell the difference because I speak sort of like the people here now after being here for so long. It just kind of adapts. In my case, not everyone, but in my case, it's been that way. And when I was in Texas, I was speaking with a Southern drawl. When I was with the Mexicans, I was speaking like the Mexicans. You know, just after a while of spending time with them, it just kind of I don't know, it just rubbed off on me, and I ended up speaking like them. So yeah, so I've lost my Spain Spanish accent, mostly, yeah.
Well, that happens because when I was at Asbury in Kentucky, and I'm a Yankee from Boston, okay, via Nebraska, I go to Kentucky, and this is back when there were payphones. And every Sunday at 2, my sister, who was in college there, she and I would call home, 2:00 on the payphone. Every day we'd have all our quarters to keep shoving in the payphone. And one day I remember I told my mom, I said, okay, well, I got to go because I'm fixing to go meet so-and-so. Fixing. Well, my mom chewed me out. She's like, you quit talking like those Southern, you're a Yankee from Boston. Don't fixing. What's up with that? So I had to be very careful. But you know what you do? You just kind of absorb the culture you're in and start talking like them.
Totally. That happened to me all the time. Yeah. That's just how it is. And growing up as an MK, I don't know. It's very easy to pick up on accents, and I would say that all the time. I'm fixing to go out, you know. And so it's just always adapting to wherever we're at, which is a good thing to do at least when you're culturally trying to adapt. And in missions, it's a good thing. But then it kind of throws people off where you're from too. So it's kind of a mess sometimes. But yeah.
How long were you down there before you met one special lady?
Actually, a year. You know, I had come down. We joke about this because I had come down with Christ for the City with a 1-year open-ended term here. You know, and so about right upon the year, I met her, and so we're like, okay, I guess God is calling me to stay in Colombia. You know,
yes, Lord,
after being here for a year. So Christ for the City understood that, and they said, okay, they were good with me staying here. So hey, that's great. Here we are, 23 years after coming down, you know, so yeah, it's been amazing.
Good. And a couple kids?
Yeah. So well, my wife is from now Colombia is very diverse. Colombia, as far as it's got like 5 different regions, and each region has its own culture, its own accent, its own food. And my wife is from the northern coast, which is bordered with the Atlantic Ocean. Colombia has both oceans, right? The Pacific and the Atlantic. So she's up on that. She's up from that area. They have different food, different culture, everything. And so we met here because she was studying in college here. But we have got such a multicultural marriage and family. My kids, of course, were born in this area, which is this center of the country. So it's a different culture here. And it's just been interesting. I thought I understood the Colombian culture living here, but when I met my wife, I just learned a whole another aspect of Colombian culture from another area. And so that's been another adaptation, I guess, in marriage. As you know, marriage can be tricky, and if you throw in culture and different different pieces there, that becomes even harder.
Hey, listen, I didn't just go to school in Kentucky. I married a girl from Tennessee. So the whole Southern thing, the food, I didn't eat. They're eating gravy for breakfast. Like, are you mad? What's the matter with you? And talking in terms I didn't understand, and go through a drive-through, and the lady in the window, I couldn't understand. She was speaking English. I couldn't understand one word she said. So I get it. And Adam, I get it.
Yeah. You get it. That's totally how it was. I thought I had adapted it, and then all of a sudden I am just seeing a whole bunch of other customs and things in my wife. But so our kids, yeah, they were born here. We've got two kids. David is 16, Sarah is 14, and so we got two teenagers here at home. And yep, navigating being parents of teenagers. So that's been
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm right in there with you. My daughter just turned 17, so I get that.
great. Good, yeah. So I don't know. I guess where we go from here.
So how about your primary, obviously you serve as a Step Up to Life champion and hub coordinator, but that's not your 8 to 5 days a week kind of job. So you do a wonderful job with it for sure. But some of your Christ for the City responsibilities would be what?
Yeah, so I came down to serve with a ministry or a program called Mission Caleb. And Mission Caleb is a program that serves local churches here in the city and around the country with missions and evangelism. So you can see where that connects with Step Up to Life, huh?
Yes.
So God knew this beforehand. I did not know this was going to come along, but down the road it did. And so it was a great fit. So what we do with Mission Caleb is we'll go and we'll do workshops, we'll do seminars about missions, about evangelism. There's been a lot of creative evangelism in the history of Mission Caleb, which goes way back before I was around, with clowns and puppets and mimes and all this kind of street evangelism. So we do some of that. And basically our burden is for the church, because we've seen the church here in Colombia and in South America. It's kind of the same story. The church growing a lot, like a lot of new churches, a lot of new believers. But when you go and compare it to their growth in missions, like these churches, like what are they doing in missions? And it's very little. And so our burden is like, okay, the church needs to be more involved, more aware, know that God is calling them. I mean, they're the vehicle that God uses to spread his word, right? This is church. But a lot of times it's not being done. So that's what we're called to do in Mission Caleb, really, just kind of help the church kind of get outside of their four walls and go and share the gospel, and even look beyond the culture, their own setting, into other settings too. So that's what we're doing with Mission Caleb. We do a lot of short-term mission trips, and we do evangelism with them too. Sometimes we'll go out with the church and do evangelism. A lot of times it looks like doing it on the street with these clowns and puppets and whatnot. But other times it's more of a one-on-one, and so that's been great with Step Up to Life, because it's a really good tool that we use all the time too. On our short-term mission trips, we always take Step Up to Life with us. If there's a chance to do a seminar, we'll do a seminar. If there's a chance just to do evangelism with the church out in the streets, then we'll use it too. So that's kind of what we do at Mission Caleb, and it's really just connects really well with Step Up to Life, because it's where our heart is at.
When I first met Adam, I was trying to get to know him better and remember who he was. I would email him, "Hey, Caleb." I kept calling him Caleb instead of Adam.
He was so gracious, like, "Hey, Link, just a reminder, my name's Adam, not Caleb."
Yeah,
I did that so many times.
That's where I work, not who I am.
So embarrassing on my part. It's like sometimes your brain gets locked into something with a name or a face or something, and it took months for me to finally get that.
Well,
straight.
we work with so many people all over the place, and we're always trying to network and stuff. And when someone's new, some of that stuff, it's just tricky. But yeah.
Now, one thing, Caleb, see what I did? See what I did? Oh my goodness. It's been 2 or 3 years since I've actually done that. So there you go. That was just a slip because I was coming here. Okay. Adam.
Maybe we need a name that's not a person's name. Like you have Step Up to Life. I won't call you Step Up to Life, right? But
There you go.
Hard to do Caleb. So Caleb's a person, So maybe we need to change our name.
Well, for every time I call you Caleb, you call me Step Up to Life, and that'll help me realize what I'm doing. So Adam, you took Step Up to Life, the Spanish translation that we had, and you changed it. You didn't change the copy or the message, but you contextualized the look. Tell us about that a little bit.
Yeah, I would just say, it just looked kind of old, I guess. What can I say? Like the front of the booklet,
This is before we had updated our own logo here. This is back when you had the old one. No, I don't blame you.
Yes, it was. Yeah. So in fact, we had like the booklet, the standard booklet redone just to make it look a little more modern. And had some, pictures that are a little more modern put in there. And then the logo, I was like, what are we gonna do with the logo? Because there was all these colors. But then I saw one, it was like a rainbow, the Step of Life rainbow one. And so I thought, no, but there's a gray one there. So I put that one in. At least it kind of fit in better with the colors and all the setup that we had in our booklet. So that worked well. And we've got a great designer at like the church that I go to, and so he worked on that and made a great booklet. And so yeah, it was more of a just kind of making it look a little more modern, basically that part. But then the translation piece, sometimes too, you come across words that's like Spanish is so diverse that from one country to another, some words it might be used in some countries and others it does not. Mm-hmm. So we try to find very neutral terms that will work in all those, kind of across the board. So in that situation, I was able to kind of maybe make some tweaks, some small tweaks there. Just that was
That's good.
I don't know.
Fabio, our champion in Brazil, did the same thing. Did a wonderful, wonderful job. So just FYI, we give our champions freedom to make it culturally appropriate and more widely acceptable in terms of the look, the design, all of that. The message has to stay the same, but we give them freedom to do that because we're Americans and our stuff looks probably American and it used to look old American. So
yeah. No,
that was part of my mission coming in here too, Adam, was to take the American side of things and do essentially what you were doing, invite some people back into the conversation and update it because, of course, the message is timeless, it's biblical, but you just want to take away those roadblocks or barriers where people may dismiss it out of hand right off the bat just from an image or something and get them actually thinking about the content instead. So.
Yeah, right. So, Adam, tell us about the network a little bit that's developing there in Latin America with Step Up to Life, the champions, where they're from, and
yeah. So we have 7 champions right now. We've also kind of used the term national directors just because it works a little bit better. When you translate champion to campeón in Spanish, it's more of it's a sports term. People might not really catch what it is at the beginning. You can kind of explain it, but if you say national director, then they know immediately what it is. So it's a little bit clearer to use the term like national director. So we've kind of adapted that. We've got, I would say, probably the guy that's been around the longest is Eduardo, right, in Cuba. That's probably the first guy that maybe Lincoln came across here in this part of the world, in the Spanish-speaking world anyway. And he's done some amazing work. He is, he's got so many contacts across Cuba. They're like calling him all the time to just have him go and do these seminars. And he just kind of looks at 2025 and sets up, 12 once a month and makes sure he goes and hits a seminar at one church and then the next, and it's just one after the other. And it's just rolling, It's amazing. Yeah. So that's really neat. And they've impacted so many people and they've got connections and they go into the rural areas where there's just a lot of need. So he sends pictures all the time and testimonies and stories, and it's really neat to hear all the work that they're doing. And he goes with his wife, and they serve together. It's just a really neat situation there. We've got now most of the other guys, I would say, are relatively new to Step Up to Life, and all the others are with Christ in the City. So that's kind of been a good connection there, where Step Up to Life and Christ in the City have been such great partners that I think it's been a good way to be able to get Step Up to Life into some of these countries where there's already some work that Christ in the City is doing, right? Now, a lot of these guys are starting like the past year or two with Step Up to Life. And so, we've got, for example, Josue in Nicaragua. He's been doing work with taking the seminar to schools, to churches. It's been going really well. He sent us some pictures this week of a seminar that he did in a church. 40 believers there. He was training and Step Up to Life. Fabio in Brazil. He's a creative guy, and they've got so much to as far as one thing is the culture. I've never been there, so I don't know what the whole Portuguese thing is, but I kind of get a feel from what all the videos and the pictures that he sends and the testimonies he tells us. Like he'll do that illustration that Lincoln does with the balloon, the goodness, right? And so he'll do it, and he'll give a balloon to every person in the seminar. And so they've got this balloon and they're filling it up with all their goodness, right? So think of all your goodness, and you're doing it personally, and then one sin, and then you're exploding it, and then there went all the goodness, right? There went.
Hey, that's impactful. What a great illustration.
So I thought, wow, this is I don't know, something of the culture there was where they're all participating, and it's interesting to hear the way he's adapted a lot of these things, and they've developed a lot of they've really adapted the materials to their culture. I can see they from the videos I've seen. Well, Lincoln knows better because you were actually there. I haven't been there. You could probably even tell us what one of the seminars is like there. But I see that they're doing worship, they're praising, they're doing like a church service. It's kind of, I don't know if they pass around an offering plate or not, but they've got it's like a church service, and then they're sharing stuff to life, and it's ministering to people, which is actually what happens a lot of times too. And that's just been one of the amazing things that we've seen as we're doing a seminar. You're in a church, you're training Christian leaders, and yet at the same time, this is just touching their hearts, and it's helping them see, wow, this is what my spiritual journey was, and it's kind of giving a name to the different stages that I walked through, and I didn't know what to call that, but now I know that was the moment that I actually felt conviction, or this is when I repented and actually turned away from my sin. And so this is really it's really neat to see that as we're doing these trainings with churches and leaders. Recently, I was training somebody, and this is a pastor's wife, and she was able to say, "Wow, now I understand what the Lord did in my life. I hadn't thought about it this way, walking through these steps, and it made so much clearer just the process in her understanding of how God worked in her life, and then she's able to articulate it better to share with somebody else. So it makes it so much easier. When you know what went on in your life and how to give it a name and kind of call each stage by its name, then it's easy to kind of walk somebody else through it too, right? So I think that's one of the blessings of Stephen's life too, being that roadmap. So we have I talked about Carlos, or I talked about Eduardo in Cuba, and we have Josue in Nicaragua. Carlos in Bolivia is one of the newer guys. We've got him. We've also got Giovanni in Guatemala, and Ronald would probably be the newest one, right, in El Salvador. So those are the 6 guys plus myself, would be 7. So we've kind of got Cuba, and then 3 countries in Central America and 3 countries in South America, kind of to give you an idea of where we're at as far as Latin America. And definitely open to, praying for other places that Step Up to Life can be. But also one of my, I guess one of my main, I don't know if to say burden, but what I want to see is that each one of these guys in their countries can know like what strategy to move forward with Step Up to Life, because each country looks different and each culture is a little bit different, even though it's Latin America. And each champion has different friends and different relationships and different ministries, and so that's what the Lord uses really to spread the word and to spread this ministry. And so my prayer for each one of them is that God will guide them in what strategy they each need to use to get Step Up to Life out. Some are using schools, some will go into the rural areas, some are pastors, and so they naturally have relationship with a lot of pastors, and they can just share this in a lot of churches where they're at. But others have a more maybe social focus in what they're doing with Christ for the City, so maybe that'll take them to different settings. So it's going to look kind of different in each country. It'd be interesting to see where God leads all that, and how he reaches the lost in all these areas. So yeah, excited about that.
So I wasn't with you guys in Cuba. I had hoped to be there, but school kind of got in the way. But at some point, God willing, I'll see you guys all in person.
Yeah.
But describe for those listening, and just for me too, what was it? Were the guys resonating with the material when you guys all got together and you talked about the essential focus of Step Up to Life? How did that resonate with the guys? I'm curious to kind of see or hear from you guys what that was like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say that each guy where we're at right now is at different stages. Like Eduardo has got so much experience in just sharing the method and the message of Step Up to Life, that I kind of feel like he's got a really good grasp on it. So does Fabio. He's been teaching it. Josue hasn't been around that long with it, but he's got a grasp on it. And he's been doing a lot of these training seminars. But then the ones who are kind of newer are also, everything's settling in more, and they're hearing this, for a third, fourth, fifth time, and they're seeing their these other champions sharing it, and they were even participating in it because we're doing this coaching, right, with Lincoln. He's guiding and walking us through it. It was just neat to kind of piece it together, right, Lincoln? I think it was neat to see each guy kind of stand up and share part of it, and then he's like, okay, you sit down, Fabio, and Carlos stand up, and move on from there, and then everyone just kind of pops in and he kind of jumps in, and they've all got their style and their own way of sharing it, but the message is there. The steps are there. There's such a good structure that it really we're all kind of on the same page in that sense. It's just really, you can adapt certain things, but the message is the same. So I think it was a really neat experience for us. It was the first time we had really done that. So it was really encouraging time, and a challenging too, because it makes you look forward to see, okay, what, how's God going to use this in each one of these contexts, right?
Yeah. We could have used one more day together, that's for sure. But I think we packed as much as we could into the time that we had, and it went really well. It was fun to see them interfacing and talking and developing friendships and relationships and all of that. And we couldn't. It was a lot easier though it wasn't easy. It was easier for all of us to go to Cuba than it was to try to get Eduardo out of Cuba.
Sure. Sure.
And so in 2 years, we don't quite know where we'll be next time. Maybe we'll go back to Cuba. That was a pretty nice place, right on the beach. I mean, I'm not complaining about the place. It was beautiful. But I don't know, maybe we go to somewhere in South America.
We should do it there just so Nick can go see. Because I felt bad Nick wasn't able to be on that time. So I think it'd be nice for him.
Yeah. No, we've gone to Africa a couple times, and whenever I see these guys come together from all their separate regions, there just seems to be such a sense of camaraderie, encouragement, kind of a sense of like, hey, someone else gets this, someone else understands what it's like to lead these types of ministries. But the uniqueness of it then kind of doubles down, almost kind of puts a fire in their belly as they go back to take what they've been entrusted with and run with it. There's kind of a sense of, hey, I'm a part of this team now. It's not just me out on my own. It's just really fun to see it. It's encouraging to see pastors encouraging each other, which with some of my studies I've found, I don't know exactly what the statistics are internationally, but at least in America, only 9% of pastors even seek out meaningful, deep friendships with other pastors. And actually is unfortunately kind of detrimental to their long-term health. And so that's one of my favorite aspects of what we do when we bring all these guys together is there's some time, not only where they're away and they can kind of, focus on this in a way where they're not distracted, but also just the meals you can share together with other ministers who understand the weight of leadership and can just kind of pray for each other, encourage each other, listen to one another. That too is a huge thing that goes on, which is encouraging.
Yeah, the team, watching the team form and come together is fun. We try to do one fun thing, and so in Cuba we rented 2 catamarans.
Yes, I saw the pictures of that.
Went out onto the ocean, which looked calm until we got out there. Then it was
really?
Kind of wavy,
a little choppy.
I think Adam, you and I, and only one other guy jumped in the water and did some snorkeling. But
yeah. So I'm with the fish there. It was amazing, huh? That was just beautiful water, and the fish just kind of like swimming right by you. I mean, they're not caring that you're there. They're just like brushing up against you. It's amazing. Yeah, that was nice.
The guy in the catamaran would throw fish food on top of you.
On top of you?
Well, I mean, throw it right at you. Yeah, and then the fish would all swarm all around you, and you could reach out and grab them.
Oh, wow.
But their tails were too slippery. I couldn't hang on to any of them because they'd slip out. But that's just part of the experience, right? It's just doing stuff together, meals, having some fun, free time together,
right,
et cetera. And I had been in, one nice thing is I had been in every one of their countries except Bolivia. So Adam went to Bolivia to train Carlos, our guy there. Okay. But over the years, I had been in every single other country. So I'd seen them on site, which was helpful for me to kind of understand where they're coming from.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And that previous connection is important.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like we said, this was the first time that all of us were actually together. Eduardo was so excited to meet all of us and to receive us there in Cuba. He was an amazing host. He just got everything set up for us all to get there. I know he kind of had the desire to be able to go somewhere else too, and get out of Cuba and go somewhere.
Sure.
But at the same time, it was so neat to just be able to share. As a result, all the guys are like, we've got to meet, even if it's just online. Let's get together and let's keep having this space to talk and to hear each other. And so we're looking to do that in the next months and have like a periodic kind of a online meeting with the guys and see how things are going in each country, and listen to everybody and just kind of share ideas, too, what's working for each country, what's not, and we can learn from each other. And it's really a neat experience.
Wow.
You mentioned, Nick, the pastors too. One thing that we have here in Colombia and through Christ for the City is there's a ministry that works to minister to pastors. And so pastors come together from different denominations, and it's a time for them to pray for each other, to hear the word together, and to eat a breakfast together. It's not so common in many places to have an interdenominational pastors meeting coming together, monthly. And it's a time for them to share with each other. Pastors understand each other's battles and issues, and maybe the church members they're not going to be able to be open with their church members in certain areas, but with another pastor they are.
Sure.
And so one thing I'm looking forward to with Step Up to Life, and I'm starting to go to some of these meetings, even though I'm not a pastor of a specific church, but they let me go anyway. So I'm going and meeting some of these pastors, and I'm hoping that Step Up to Life, and this is kind of one of my prayers and dreams, is that Step Up to Life would become a part of a lot of these churches, because I think that it can be something that not only is an evangelistic tool, but I think that this is something that's great for the people, the new believers of their church, like some kind of a discipleship thing that they can use. Because one of the issues that we've come across here, in a place where the prosperity gospel has been so big, right? In South America, Central America, where there's a lot of issues with poverty and everything. And so then you've got this prosperity gospel comes in, and then everyone's just like, swarming churches for other reasons, right? And then you come in with the true gospel, right? And that's what we want, because a lot of times you see a lot of these people come into churches, and the church is filled with people that are not necessarily saved, right? Or they haven't really understood the gospel. And so I think that if they use something like Step Up to Life, or as close to it as possible, it would be a huge, huge help for people, new believers coming into the church and going through these steps and really processing and seeing, what does repentance look like? What is that? And I think Step Up to Life is so good at like pinpointing and defining these terms, which we use. We talk about faith, we talk about repentance, but everyone talks about that. But how well do people understand what that really is? And so then you get into faith, and it's like, faith is not just believing, it's also surrendering. Okay, what does that look like? And then you get the whole throne picture, and that's like, okay, I'm off the throne, and Jesus is there, and then that's a huge thing, right? So I think that this is, as I've shared this at certain churches, I'm like, this would be something that if they could adapt that in their churches, that would be awesome. Anyway, so that's one of my desires. One of the things I'm praying for as I develop relationships with some of the pastors here in the city, and maybe other cities too. We'll see, but at least starting here, and we'll see. But yeah, wanted to share that.
That's amazing. I'm kind of curious what's on your heart right now. What has God got kind of percolating in your mind as you're looking forward to the next 6 months or so? Is there some major stuff whether it's with CFCI or Step Up to Life or both, or with Mission Caleb, what's kind of on the forefront right now?
Yeah. So I guess with Christ for the City and Mission Caleb, we've been with our missions work. We've been focusing little by little more and more on places where there are no churches. Of course, Colombia, there's a lot of churches, but you've still got communities like a lot of these indigenous groups where there are no churches. Now that's a whole nother world, because it's another culture, it's another language. And so we don't have experience in that yet, but it's something that we're looking towards. We've got a short-term, like, exploratory mission trip plan to go to one of these areas. Some of the difficulties is these areas are so remote that it's hard to get to a lot of times, and it's hard to do follow-up with. And you don't want to just go and do a short-term mission trip and never go back. And that's what's on our heart, is that the work that we do as short-term missions and that connects with Step Up to Life too, wherever we take it. We want it to be a place where we can do some kind of follow up and see where things are going with that church, with that ministry, with whatever it is. And but there's a community that's 3.5 hours away. We just found out through some other missionary friends, and so we're looking to try to do that trip. It's with some Mbera indigenous group, totally different culture, but there's people that have been working there for a while, and so we want to see what that's going to look like, serving amongst them. And I know that in Africa they've translated the Step Up to Life booklet to a whole, there's tons of languages there and different cultures within the same continent. That might be something that would happen down here with different indigenous groups. We'll have to see what that looks like. I really don't know yet. God knows what's in store, but it's something that I would like to look towards, because I think it'll help them understand the gospel a lot better if they can have this kind of a material, this kind of a method. It would be very helpful. So on several fronts, that's one, but there's another possibility of working with another indigenous group through some other friends with Christ for the City as well. And so I'm just looking, I personally would love to see that. I would love to see us being able to go to some other groups that the church is just developing and be able to share the gospel, even using Step Up to Life with them, and kind of get a good start. It's not like you've got the prosperity gospel people that came to the gospel that way, and they're trying to figure things out. Now it wasn't that, and now what is it really? If we start out on the right way, then it makes things easier. So some of these groups, that have never heard the gospel, you start off with the true gospel, and you start off even with these 5 steps, which are so helpful to understand. That would be awesome. That's one of the dreams that I have, and we'll see where that goes. But also just with continuing to train the churches that are already here, like these relationships I'm trying to develop with pastors. And we've already got Wednesday night, I have a Step Up to Life training at one of these churches. So that's, praise God for that. And with some of these pastors that I'm developing relationships with, and see where that can go, and how we can put some good resources into the hands of these churches that really need it, And so that's really important. Yeah.
Wow. That's exciting. Who knows? You never know quite when that'll take, but if that happens, we are ready and willing to try to help fund that and make that a reality if God opens that door. So that's exciting.
Yeah.
Awesome. Somebody
out there might be wondering kind of how does the funding work? So we receive funds here in Omaha at the headquarters here. Headquarters. I never used that term before for us. Anyway, there's only 2 heads here. So, and then we tried to distribute those funds in a good, equitable, strategic way with our champions around the world. Mm-hmm. We wish we had $5 million to just disperse everywhere. But God's been faithful, and we're thankful for the growth of Step Up to Life in Latin America. And we tell the champions or the national directors, look, we don't have that $3 billion laying around.
Yeah.
But we'll do everything that we can to resource you. So as people, just FYI, as people give to Step Up to Life, they are actually fueling this kind of thing that you've heard about today.
Right.
In these 7 nations in Latin America, and growing. And who knows, maybe some indigenous groups as well.
Yeah. I mean, it's easy to think in 2025 that the gospel's gone everywhere, everyone's heard it. And actually, no. Yeah. Actually, that's not the case. And in fact, there are people who have either heard a very, very poor version of the gospel, as Adam's pointed out, where it's just very confusing, and or they've just not heard it at all.
Yeah.
And so to be able to lean into that and see how God might open some doors, that's really exciting. We love doing that here at Step Up to Life. If that's something that you're energized about, you can get on stepuptolife.com and look at ways to help us make that happen. That brings up to mind too, Adam, how do people find you online in particular if they're interested in supporting your work you and your wife are doing with Mission Caleb and CFCI? Where should they go to find you?
Yeah, so cfci.org, right? Christ for the City. That's the CFCI website. You can go on there, and there's all the missionaries that serve through them are there, and you can look up Adam and Libia Maria Cabeen. There we are. Picture, probably an outdated picture of our family. Our kids probably are a lot shorter than what they are now. Gotta update that every year now. They're so big. But anyway, but we're on there. And yeah, any support for our family or Mission Caleb. There's also, you can look up Mission Caleb under cfci.org, and there's also a place that can go funds just directly to Mission Caleb, which that would be amazing too, because we also part of our work with the people that we're training here is for them to raise their own funds here. That's always a big challenge because this is not a mission sending culture yet. But they always have to raise some funds. If they don't get all 100% of the money they need for their mission trip, then we're able to maybe subsidize some of that, and that's helpful when something comes in from the US, so we'll have them raise as much as they can, and then we'll be able to put some of that on too for them to be able to do their mission trip, because we're taking teams of 10 or 12 people to do these short-term mission trips and share the gospel around Colombia. So yeah, that's the place to be able to go, I guess, cfci.org.
Okay, that's good to know. What are the thoughts before we land the plane here?
No, I thank you, Adam, for joining us. It's great to have you from Medellin, Colombia. And we appreciate you so much and all that you're doing. And you're the perfect guy for our hub coordinator. And we are delighted. I thought about you for a long time before I actually asked you. Not because I had questions about you. It's just, you want to make sure you have the mind of the Lord. And so I think by God's grace, we got that one right. So thank you for serving with us and for all that you're doing. You're a huge blessing. Just in a given couple months, just the translation work that he does for me. Okay, for example, just this morning, I get these 3 or 4 messages from Eduardo in Cuba in Spanish.
Okay.
Now, I could cut and paste and go to Google Translate and try to then get back to him with Google. But sometimes I just wimp out and say, Adam, what did he say?
So much easier. Yeah, 30 seconds. 30 seconds. Give me a summary. There it is.
Give me a 30 seconds.
It works great. You're in the same time zone.
Yeah, really.
Yeah.
You'd be like, it's 3 a.m. Lincoln, leave me alone.
So, anyway, there's one waiting for you, and I'll wait to hear from you.
Okay, so I can't completely let you guys off the hook if there's nothing else, because I want you to tell the story of why the certificates were so funny before you left Cuba.
Okay. So at the end of our summits, when we have a summit with these, Africa, Asia, Latin America, we like to give all of them a certificate that just says, they went through the training, so on and so forth. And so Jennifer, my dear wife, got online and found some in Spanish. But
perfect. What could go wrong?
Perfect. What could go wrong? Nothing. So we were so excited to find them, and we were signing them, and everything looked great. And then I think I sent one to you, Adam, and Adam, he just writes back, are these already copied? Did you already make the copies?
Did you print those already?
Did you print those already? I'm like, uh-oh, I think we might have a problem here. And what was the problem, Adam?
Well, the thing is in English, director is the same for a guy or a girl, right? It's director, but it's gender specific in Spanish. So if you have an A at the end, it's a female director. And so for some reason, Google Translate gave Jen, the female director, translation with the A at the end. So we all show up as women directors of Step Up to Life.
Their certificates. I told them, I said, look, we will send you some new ones that are correct. No, don't worry about it. It's kind of funny. And they all got a good laugh out of it.
Oh, my goodness.
So anyway, maybe they can just white out the A.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Hopefully it never creates any issues when they have to maybe ever show that to an official agency that's checking their credentials.
Yeah, really. Oh, dear. Yeah. Well, funny things happen when you're going cross-cultural, right?
Yeah. Well, maybe next time check with Mr. Cabeen.
Oh, gosh. Yes. Believe me. For sure.
Just before you print, just send it my way. We'll check it out and make sure everything's in line.
Learn the hard way.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that's it for today. Anything people can be praying about for you in the next month or so? You got anything that you feel like, I would appreciate prayer on this before we let you go?
Yeah. So these opportunities, these missions opportunities, but also the opportunities with the churches and the pastors. We've got not just this Wednesday seminar, but we've others that are lined up for the next few months. And just that the Lord would open doors there to be able to continue sharing Step Up to Life, the method. If it's his will for these churches to take it on as something that will be helpful for them with the new believers, that would be awesome. Because I think it would be a really good tool that they could use. Also for the directors, the other directors in South America and Central America, as they navigate how to get Step Up to Life out to the different circles where they're serving. Some of the work is very natural, like with me with Mission Caleb, it just works really well. Others have to be creative as how they're going to use Step Up to Life in their ministries or with the people that they're sharing with, and how they can get it out to the churches, to the ministries, and that people will know this tool and be able to use it, because it's got so much to offer, and it's so practical. I'm just, Lincoln was thanking me, but I'm thinking you guys. I'm thinking, his dad even. I never met him, but I'm just like, this is such a great material. It's so useful. It's so practical. It's so helpful for people that I wish every church knew it. I wish every pastor knew it, so they could share it with their people and then use it as a method in sharing the gospel. So yeah, I'm really grateful for that, and just how it's also been a tool for us at Mission Caleb, because we use it all the time. So yeah, very grateful for Step Up to Life.
That's really encouraging to hear. Yeah, if you're a pastor, regardless of where you're at in the world, but even if you're in the U.S., get on stepuptolife.com. We've got the material there. I found it also incredibly useful as a pastor. That's how I got kind of tied into all of this. I was in a situation where people were coming to our church, and shortly thereafter were seeking baptism or membership, but finding it kind of challenging to have a conversation about what did it really mean to be a Christian without accidentally scaring them away. Step Up to Life became the perfect tool for that conversation in a way that was both encouraging but clarifying and empowering to help them understand, okay, well, what it looked like to take the next step in my faith in a way that felt affirming, but really, truly maintained the biblical truth about those things. So if that's you, stepuptolife.com.
Yeah,
so
good.
Adam, thank you so much for taking time. Yeah. So grateful. I know you've got 1,000 plates you're spinning and things, but to be able to meet with you and connect like this has been a treat. And it also, I think it's fun for people who subscribe to the podcast just to get to know Step Up to Life a little bit better beyond Lincoln and I, and beyond the American connections we have, which are good. But really, in some ways, Step Up to Life is more of a global ministry than it is a domestic American ministry, at least currently. We're looking at how to maybe grow that out, similar to what you described. Some things I'm prayerfully leaning into in the next year or two. But it's really nice to be able to put the actual faces with the names. They hear your names, they hear about what's going on here and there, Cuba and this and that, Latin America, but to actually get to know you better, I think is really good. So thanks for taking time.
Yeah, thank you, Adam. Blessings to you and your family.
All right, you too.
That's all for this episode of Ministry Minded. Thanks for listening. We hope you were encouraged and inspired to keep serving Jesus biblically as you follow him on your journey. If you appreciate this podcast, please subscribe, share it with your circle, and leave us a positive review. If you'd like to help us keep creating new episodes, you can do so with a tax-exempt donation online at stepuptolife.com/give.